You know, we hear the word economics all the time, right? But what does it actually mean? Is it really just about money in the stock market? Well, in this explainer, we're going to peel back the layers and go on a journey to find out what economics is really all about. And the answer might just surprise you.
When you hear economics, this is probably the first thing that pops into your head. Money, cash, dollars, rupees, you name it. But is that really the whole story? Is it just about the cash in our wallets?
Well, the real answer is so much bigger, and honestly, a lot more interesting. The best way to think about it is that the definition of economics has grown and changed over hundreds of years. Each new idea is like another step on a staircase, leading us to how we understand it today. So let's start that climb, shall we?
Okay, let's go way back to the very beginning, to the word itself. It comes from two Greek words, oikos, which means household, and nomos, which means management. So literally, economics meant household management. Just think about how a family has to manage its budget, right? Its limited income to cover all its needs. Well, that's basically what a whole society does, just on a much bigger scale.
All right, so our journey begins with the very first major formal definition of economics. This was the idea that really dominated early thinking, that economics is simply the science of wealth. And for that, we've got to talk about this guy, Adam Smith. He's widely known as the father of modern economics, and he's the one who really kicked things off with this wealth-focused idea. I mean, just look at the title of his massive 1776 book, The Wealth of Nations. It says it all, right? For Smith, economics was all about figuring out how nations get rich. The main goal? Produce more, consume more. In his mind, more stuff literally translated to more wealth for the nation.
Now, this diagram really shows you how Smith saw the world. See, wealth is the main goal. It's the end. And human welfare? That's kind of secondary. Something that just happens on the side, hopefully, as a result of the nation getting rich. The primary mission was to grow the nation's bank account, and the people's prosperity would just sort of follow along. Okay, but this focus on wealth got people thinking. Is getting rich the only point? Or is wealth just a tool for something else, something bigger? This question sparked a total shift in thinking, one that put people, not profit, right at the center of economics. Enter Alfred Marshall. He came along and said, hold on a second, economics isn't just about wealth, it's about people. He argued that it's about what we do in the ordinary business of life, basically how we make a living and how we use that income to make our lives better. And this is the key takeaway right here. Marshall completely flips Smith's model on its head. For Marshall, human welfare was the ultimate goal, the end, and wealth, that was just a tool, the means to get there. It wasn't about getting rich for the sake of getting rich, it was about using that wealth to make humanity's life better. All right, so we've gone from wealth to welfare, but believe it or not, the story doesn't stop there, because the next major thinker came along and said, you know what, it's not really about wealth or welfare specifically. It's about a much deeper problem, something that affects every single one of us every day.
And that thinker was Lionel Robbins. His scarcity definition completely changed the game and became one of the most important ideas in all of economics. He basically changed the entire question.
Okay, so here's his famous definition. Now, it sounds a little academic at first, I get it, but the idea behind it is actually super simple and really powerful. Robbins said economics is all about the relationship between what we want, our ends, and the limited stuff we have to get it, our scarce means. And this slide just lays it out so clearly. First, our wants are unlimited. I mean, we always want more stuff, right? Second, our resources, time, money, they're limited, they're scarce. Third, those resources can be used in different ways. You can spend an hour studying or watching a show, but you can't do both at the same time. And that tension, that leads right to step 4. We have to choose. And that, Robbins said, is the economic problem. Economics is basically the science of choice.
So, we've covered wealth, we've covered welfare, we've covered choice, but there's one last piece of the puzzle we need to add. Time. How do the choices we make today affect the world tomorrow? This brings us to the modern, dynamic view of economics.
This is where economist Paul Samuelson comes in. He took Robbins' idea and added this crucial dimension. He said, yes, economics is about choice, but it's about choice over time. It's about how we use our limited resources, not just for today, but for the future too. Think about something like climate change policy. It's a perfect example of this. We have to choose how to use our resources today, say by investing in green energy, to make sure people have a better world to live in the future.
So this is how modern economics is basically set up today. It's split into two main branches. You've got microeconomics, and a good way to remember it is the I in micro is for individual. It looks at the small stuff, one household's budget, one company's prices. And then you have macroeconomics, and the A in macro is for aggregates, or the whole thing put together. This looks at the big picture, the entire country's economy, unemployment, inflation. The analogy is perfect. Micro is studying the trees, while macro is studying the whole forest.
Okay, that's all great theory, but how does this stuff actually show up in our daily lives? Let's bring it all back down to earth and see how economics helps us make sense of the world around us.
So economics makes this really interesting distinction between economic and non-economic activities. And it all comes down to the why. Why are you doing it? An economic activity, like going to your job, is about earning money. But a non-economic activity, like, say, helping a friend move, that's driven by something else. Personal satisfaction, friendship. You can't put a price tag on it, but the result is still valuable, happiness.
And this slide just nails that difference perfectly. On the left, you've got a doctor treating a patient. That's an economic activity, right? It's a professional service for a fee. But on the right, you see a brother giving a gift to his sister. That's a non-economic activity. It's not about money. It's about love and tradition. See? The motive, the context is everything.
So, let's do a super quick recap of our journey. We started with Adam Smith and the science of wealth. Then, Alfred Marshall came in and shifted the focus to human welfare. After that, Lionel Robbins blew our minds with the science of choice and scarcity. And finally, Paul Samuelson brought it all into the modern era with the growth definition, adding that all-important element of time.
And that brings us full circle. So you see, economics is so much more than just money. At its core, it's the science of choice. It's about how you and I and everyone else make decisions in a world where we can't have everything. So I'll leave you with this to think about. Now that you know all this, where do you see the science of choice playing out in your own life today?